At Jackson Water, we are in the game and locked in on our goals. Every day, our dedicated teams are hard at work, ensuring that clean, reliable water flows to every home and business in Jackson. We are not just fixing pipes. We're investing in a brighter, more resilient future for our city. Jackson Water. Water for all the time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for WLBT Plus. My name is Kara Shirley, your digital news desk host. We are continuing our series of talking to some famous Mississippians that are famous on TikTok. If they are famous-ish, because a lot of people don't like to say the word famous.
Right.
Yeah. But we have Brett Kenyon, or Papa Mississippi, with us today. A lot of you probably know him. You have, what is it? Right at 100,000 followers, right?
Right out there. Yeah. I've been doing this for just about a year and have just now hit that point. So
wow.
Kind of a fun milestone.
I'm so jealous. I've been, of course, I haven't been doing consistent content on TikTok, but I certainly do not have that many followers at all. But he is from right here in Jackson, well, actually, let's address the elephant in the room.
Yes.
He is Papa Mississippi, but you're not born in Mississippi.
No, I have moved around quite a bit. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and always growing up considered that home. That was where my dad's family was, and tons of cousins and aunts and uncles running around there. He was the middle child of 11, so a lot of Kenyans running around up there. But then we moved around a lot. In fact, folks used to ask if we were in the military, but it was he was a public school teacher and a high school coach. So we lived in Miami, we lived in North Carolina, both the coast and the mountains. Mm-hmm. I think by the time I got my first house here in Mississippi, I'd lived in 17 places up to that point. So it was basically a missionary kid in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So your roots are here, though. Your roots are here.
I have lived longer in Jackson than I've lived anywhere else in my life at this point. So
let's talk about what got you here to Jackson, and what made you, because if you haven't watched any of his content, number one, you need to. I told you guys all week, if you don't have TikTok, go download TikTok, follow all of these people. But a lot of your content, well, as your name goes, Papa Mississippi. But what got you into doing the content that you do, or got you here? No, let's back up even further. What got you to Mississippi?
We'll go all the way back.
What got you to Mississippi?
So I was going to school in South Carolina, and my uncle, Dr. Win Kenyon, used to teach here at Belhaven, mm-hmm. and he lived here. His sons were my best friends of my childhood, and all I ever heard from him was, and the family, was just how much they loved living in Jackson. They lived right in the Belhaven neighborhood, and everything they told me about it was just magical. So when I came down in 2003, I transferred down to Belhaven, and I guess I went in with the expectation of that magic. And so when you have that expectation going into something,
yes,
a lot of times it's that's what you see.
Mhm.
And so my first introduction was the Bellhaven neighborhood, and I'm looking around going, these houses are incredible. Everybody's just out walking around. You actually see the sun between November and May. You don't get that in Pittsburgh.
You do not. No.
And so I enjoyed my time there at the school, and just the people here were just so open and inviting, and just gradually kind of moved out of the Bellhaven area into other parts of Jackson. I got into community theater, and then did some work at New Stage Theater,
Mhm.
got into video production at some of the groups around town like Mad Genius. And it just every step of the way just found a new interest, a new group of people that I just fell in love with.
Yeah.
And then I met my wife, and that really sealed the deal.
Yeah.
That was my wife, Rachel, is from here in Jackson. She's the oldest of 9 kids. So she has a ton of family here in town. And really just when you have that much family that you're that close to,
Mhm.
you don't want to be anywhere but there.
Right.
That network of support is just incredible. So I think through them is where I really found my love of just having roots in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And they, their stories of how things were, oh, this used to be a gravel road here, and oh, this used to be a deli, and they had the best desserts, and I always felt like I missed out because I moved here right after the dock closed.
Mhm.
And people here talk about places like the dock and just almost mythic status. And since I didn't get to experience those things, I wanted to know as much about them as possible.
Right.
So that's really, I think, what started me down the research.
And because when we talked, and I was talking about your content and your niche, I guess, on TikTok,
Mhm.
it's really, I told you, I said, I look at you as kind of like a historian almost. And then I felt kind of guilty because I felt like you knew more about Mississippi than I do. And I'm born and raised here. And I was like, well, dadgum, he knows so much. But you said you were, I called you a historian, and you classified yourself as a
Mississippi advocate,
Yeah.
I think is the way I'd put it. It's I hate to say historian because I know historians, and I know how just incredibly smart and just how much knowledge they have just right off the bat. And a lot of times the stories that I'm sharing are things that I may have just learned about the week before.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Mississippi has a lot of oral tradition, has a lot of stories that are just passed down person to person, but there isn't always like a central like just place to go for all of those
Right.
stories. And so I found that as I would share stories, then I would get several messages from people being like, oh, love that. You should talk about this.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and see it and go, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I have my email account is now almost entirely just emails to myself from myself of just, hey, look into this. Oh, look into this then. Look into this then. So there's no shortage of things to talk about here. And I think what really kind of got me started into the history side was, and just sharing those stories publicly was, I never really saw myself as doing anything as in the realm of social influencer. That just was never, I thought of social influencer as, the folks that dance. And that's pretty much it.
Are you going to do that?
Oh boy. I think most people would pay me not to.
Okay.
I think if you could see me dance one time, then you would just be like, oh no,
don't
that's
do that.
That's
again.
an FCC violation.
Yeah, we're stopping
Please
that.
don't do that.
Yeah.
But raising my kids here, I would find that when I would share stories about Mississippi, people from outside Mississippi would just see the name of the state, and they would respond immediately with just such, borderline hatred sometimes of it was just the punching bag state. And it's just so much negativity. And of course, we have our problems, and but every state has their problems.
Very true.
But for some reason, ours get a huge spotlight on it a lot of times. And we're just we're the easy joke. Saturday Night Live can't think of something to make people laugh. They say Mississippi. You know, it's just.
Or throw on that thick Southern accent.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started.
Yeah. Not that you have that or anything. Right. Yeah, but
no, I still get asked. I'll go to Walmart and I get the "You're not from around here, are you?" question at least once a week.
Yeah. No, but I do love the place.
Yes.
And that's what I love about your content is a lot of times myself being a Mississippian, born and raised here, you I don't want to say become disillusioned, but you become almost blind, if you will, to all of the good that is around. And it's just like living in the mountains. If you live in the mountains, you see them every day. You don't really notice them, but you go visit them and then you notice. And so having an outsider come in and see all the wonderful things and then brings it up, it kind of helps to give, at least for me as a Mississippian, a little bit more pride in my state and the people of my state, in the progress that our state has made. We have a ways to go, but we have come so far.
Exactly. You take places like New England and New York that have been around for so long, and they've been investing in infrastructure since the very beginning. And with Mississippi, we really had to start over halfway through, and with a lot of that and the investment in the state. And so it makes sense that in a lot of ways we're still catching up. But just because we started a little further back doesn't mean that we're not making progress.
Right.
I think our education recently, the rankings that we've been getting, just seeing us shoot to the top of some of those lists, I think is just, people don't believe it. They want to mock us for it or claim that someone has a finger on the scale or something like that, and they forget that the metrics they're using to measure Mississippi are the same ones they're using for every other state. And we're not getting special treatment, but we are up there towards the top now.
We are. So let's talk about some of the videos that you've created, the TikToks that you've created. Tell me, what would be, I guess, to you, if you can pick one, your favorite one and favorite thing that you've covered?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow. It usually, when I get to ask that question, my answer is just the one that I've most recently worked on, because that's the one that's the freshest in my head. Some of the travel ones I think have been right up at the top. Today, it just popped up in my feed as a on this day from last year. Was exactly a year ago. I went to Red Bluff, Mississippi, the Little Grand Canyon, and folks, if you haven't been down there, it's incredible.
I have never been.
It is so cool. It's it's just it's erosion is what causes it, and you could tell because there's a road that goes around the back of it that's completely collapsed. You can't drive there anymore, but they have all these trails that go down to the bottom. There's a train wreck at the bottom you can explore. It's the clearest water I've ever seen in Mississippi, and the little creek down there. But just doing videos like that. Ship Island was another really fun one. I hadn't been there before, so brought the camera with the family and documented the whole thing. And that led to a whole bunch more videos, because you go somewhere and you discover a whole lot of questions about it. Like, why in the world is the sand black at Ship Island? And why does it feel like velvet? And so that gets another video. The historic videos, I would say, I think probably my very favorite Mississippi story, and I was probably going to redo this video soon, is the hippo story. Are you familiar with the Mississippi?
No, not at all. Here, okay, you got my full attention now. I'm very interested.
And disclaimer on this one, I believe that the plural of hippopotamus is hippopotamuses, but it just feels wrong, and I never can get it right. So if I'm stumbling over the plural there a lot,
it's just hippos.
We'll just say hippos.
Hippos.
Hippopotami.
Yeah.
But the story is that back, I believe this was either the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a major issue that was affecting Mississippi. Well, two really. One was ranching was really taking over a lot of the country, but Mississippi doesn't have a ton of ranching land like you do further out west. We have a lot of swamp land, though. So, same with Louisiana. And so they were looking for something that they could raise in more of a marshy environment. And then the other side was the water hyacinth was a plant that had become very popular in New Orleans at the time, just as a gift. But just like this happens all the time with things like kudzu and fire ants and that type of thing, you have this invasive species that gets dropped into the state, and it eventually escapes, and it eventually takes over. And so this water hyacinth had just blocked up all these waterways. The Mississippi River even was like, they were having trouble getting boats through there. And so they were like, well, let's come up with a way that we can knock this out and kill two birds with one stone. So the plan that they came up with, and it was someone from Mississippi and someone from Louisiana partnered up on this. They wanted to import hippos from Africa and then bring them here to Mississippi and Louisiana and raise them in the marshlands for two reasons. One, so that they would eat the water hyacinth, and then two, for meat. And they had sampled the meat. They said it tasted like pork. They called it not chicken. I know, right? That was it. They went with pork. They had a name for it, which was it was lake cow bacon, which I thought was.
Say that again.
Lake cow bacon.
Lake cow bacon.
Yes, which
that's hilarious.
Not maybe the most appetizing thing.
No.
Yeah, I worked in marketing for a while. It was I may have workshopped that name a little bit, but that's what they were going with. And it came very, very close to happening. I believe it was one vote was what stopped that from happening. And you think about the invasive species that have escaped through Mississippi, and you figure at some point the hippos would have probably escaped as well. And we could very well have had native hippos running around Mississippi.
How funny would that be?
Attacking kayaks in the Pearl. And
well, no, that wouldn't be, because my husband's a kayak fisherman. That wouldn't be fun. But just see a random hippo.
Just see hippos running around.
Alligators and hippos out in the res. I mean, that would be hilarious.
They had a whole marketing campaign for it with kind of like the other white meat campaign. It was like that, but it was for hippos. And ultimately, one of the thing that really kind of sank it was people weren't grossed out by the idea of eating it, but they thought that it would make them look bad to their neighbors if almost like eating horse or something.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I don't want to be the family that eats hippo.
The hippo eater.
Yeah. So that it kind of lost popularity and it didn't happen. But
that's so crazy. I had stuff I never knew about. I had no idea that this was even a thing. That
it is. You hear about those things and you think there's no way that's true. And then you go to Google and you pull it up and it's like, there's the posters from the early 1900s advertising. It's like hand-drawn pictures of cowboys lassoing hippos. And
that is so funny.
It's too random to be made up almost.
Yeah. It's hippos in Mississippi. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I want to talk about one video that you did yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think you did it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually talking about someone from my hometown, Meridian.
Yes.
So, and talking about Lita Palmer.
Yes.
I know her if she's watching. Hey, Lita, how are you doing? I told you that I'm going to ask her about this today. I'm
so glad you did. This, I think, is such a cool story.
Yeah. So she has created this thing to help children with dyslexia or people with dyslexia.
Yes.
So which I know, I don't say I know a lot about it. I know about the organization that she is with and works for, and I believe founded over there. But you tell me, because you said it so much more eloquently than I can. So tell us about this.
All right. Here on the spot. I will put another disclaimer here is that the videos that I do, sometime I need to do one that's just the outtakes, because the number of times that I have to stop and restart and re-say something over and over again is pretty hilarious. So we'll try and do this live and try and do you justice. Yeah. But the idea is that she developed this new software program, and it's directed towards not just children, but adults who struggle with reading. And as she pointed out in some of her interviews, that's, I believe, 65 million Americans that have some sort of struggle with reading. Mm-hmm. And she developed this software that uses artificial intelligence. And what it does is you get a piece of paper or this reading report, and you read it. And so the computer knows what's going to be read. They know what it should sound like.
Right.
And as you're reading, it is analyzing everything you're saying. And so if there's a slight hesitation before a word or a slight mispronunciation somewhere, it flags that. And then it builds a custom report for that student, sends it to the teacher or the instructor or the literary center. And then the teacher then isn't just looking at this broad reading curriculum for the student and just trying to teach everything. They can say, oh, well, you're great with all of this over here, but some of these phonics are or what's giving you some trouble. So let's focus on just that. And because of that, it can be hyper focused attention on that learning process.
Yeah.
And I think she said that it is now, I forget the number of schools and literary centers it's in, but I believe the total number of students that are using it now is around 150. And this is just the pilot program. So once this gets past the pilot and they have those results, which from what I hear is going just swimmingly, this thing is going out national.
And that's in Mississippi.
This is Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah, but it's like it's here. It's people here in our state that are doing these great things that are literally have the potential to change the world.
Oh, such cool stuff. Down at the Stennis Center, we are testing. We're I believe the only place in the country that is testing these. It's the Arrow Sky Dwellers. And there's this great video, if you look it up on YouTube, Arrow Sky Dweller, and these fishermen are out, and it was these Mississippi fishermen out in a bayou in this boat, and all of a sudden they're like, what is this thing? And it looks like a glider, because it is not like a drone. It's like this, it is an airplane sized thing, but it's almost silent. And it's because it's solar powered. It is AI driven, so there's no pilot. A person can ride in it, but they don't have to. And no one's flying it from the ground. It's completely flying itself by AI. And this thing can stay in the air for up to a year.
Wow.
Or possibly longer. That's just what they've tested it on. And it goes up, it goes above the clouds on a rainy day to get solar powered, and then it gets up enough power to fly through the night. And they're going to use it for, sea rescues. It can fly out of the ocean just indefinitely. Which the other thing on the coast, they developed another AI. It's almost like a transformer. It's like this. It looks like a kayak, and this is I gotta remember the name. It's another AI company, but I think AI Ocean or something like that. But forgive me for getting the name wrong. But if you look it up, it down on the coast, you'll find it. But it's these little boats that kind of look like a kayak, and they go out in the ocean, completely anonymous. It's AI driving it. It has like this little sail that'll pop up with, so it captures the wind and it captures the sun to power itself. And then whenever it needs to, it transforms into a submarine, goes underwater, and it can drive itself underwater. And so what they're doing with those is they're sending them down to like oil wells. If you have fiber optic cables running underwater, it can inspect all these things. Or the big one that I'm really excited about is it's mapping the ocean floor in a way that we've never done before. And that's Mississippi, the only place that's doing it.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Well, let's go back. Let's talk more about just your page. You said you've had it for about a year now.
Yes.
About a year. Do you remember what your first video was?
Oh boy, it was probably something really dumb.
As they all are.
It was probably because when TikTok to me, when I first started getting into it, I was like, I just don't get this. It was, I was totally the, get out of my yard guy. But I was like, it's just all dancing. And I thought some of the little filter things were amusing. And so it'd be stuff kind of like that. But what I started doing it as more of an experiment. I worked in marketing, and I was trying to see how TikTok could be used for that brand. And so I was doing a lot of just testing. Okay, this works, this doesn't work. Here's somebody that's doing something great. Here's somebody that's doing something odd, but it's working. And in doing so, I began to find some Mississippi voices that really jumped out at me. You had one here on the show, I believe last week or the week before last, was Sally with the True Crime Mama.
Yes,
and I was
Sally.
like, oh my
Last
gosh,
Friday.
that's Mississippi. That's huge. I can't believe that somebody with that kind of audience is here in Mississippi. And then there was some other content. It's down a lot down on the coast, a lot of artists and creators and soap makers and candle makers, and then others that are just voices. There was one lady, I can't remember her username. Her name was Holly in North Mississippi, and she was doing this ongoing commentary of the 2023 gubernatorial debates and everything, and just retelling it in this Mississippi way that it was hilarious, and I could not look away from it. And I was like, I'd love to be a part of that. It is so cool what they're doing. So I think my first videos were very bland. It was, I thought, let's do just news headlines. So it was, hey, here's what happened in Mississippi today. And
hey, that's what I do.
Yeah, but you do it so much better than how I was doing it. I tried everything to make it interesting. And it was like, oh, 100 people saw that. That was totally worth the effort.
Yeah.
But then I started getting into more of the actual stories, the people, the history. And I think where it really clicked was that hippo story, was people's responses to that. And that's where the other thing that was really vital for me about the platform kind of hit was, I was noticing, I'd mentioned all those comments that people would leave about Mississippi. And my daughter, who is, I have 4 kids. My daughter at the time was, I believe, around, I think she must have been 10 at that time. And she made a comment to me about, why do we have to live in Mississippi? Or I don't want to be here in Mississippi when there's so many other, the mountains or the beaches of, the East Coast or something like that. Why do we have to be here? And I realized that she was hearing a lot of that negativity. And living in Jackson, you kind of get a double dose because, as I've said on a couple of my videos before, the way that the nation talks about Mississippi is the way that Mississippi tends to talk about Jackson. It kind of gets passed down. And so she was getting it with both barrels there. And so I realized after seeing the response to some of the more positive stories, that was like, people just really need a reason to be proud of home. And I felt very awkward doing it because I am not from Mississippi. And I thought this could go horribly because people are going to say, why is this guy?
Right. They'll be like, no, sir, if you're going to talk about us, you're supposed to sound like this when you're talking about us, or something like that.
It's like, he's been here for 20 years. He just learned how to say y'all. Okay. How are we letting him do this? And I didn't take the name Papa Mississippi for a little while because of that. I was like, I felt a little awkward doing that, but I wanted to make sure that everything I was doing was Mississippi facing. And the cool thing about history, I had a high school history teacher who really brought it alive for me because he taught me that history wasn't just about the accomplishments. It was also about the mistakes.
Right.
And every good boss you'll have in your life will always tell you that you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your victories. And in Mississippi, we did have a lot of mistakes in our past, and it's mistakes that we're still trying to get past in some ways. But acknowledging the mistakes gives you the credibility you need to really applaud the victories, because you have that base level of like, here's where we started, but here's where we're going. Here's the problems we still have, but here's the solutions, and here's the people working for those solutions.
Right.
It makes it real. It's not a marketing campaign.
Right. Right. And that's exactly right. It's not someone you're not trying to sell a bill of goods to anybody. You're just telling about the awesomeness of the state.
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, if a Yankee can come down here, as you call it, and I'm not calling him that. He calls himself that. Okay. But if a Yankee can come down here and find the pride and the happiness and the greatness about living in our state, then us as Mississippians should be able to find that as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes you just, there's an old saying about, you beat a dog long enough, they eventually believe that they deserved it. And I feel like Mississippi's been a punching bag for so long that especially folks in the younger generations in Mississippi, they've grown up hearing that, and it's become part of the identity of their home. And to me, that is one of the saddest things, because I look around as somebody that came from outside Mississippi and chose to be here. I wasn't born here. I looked in from the outside and went, oh, I want to see what things are like there. And they say that the biggest or the greatest resource of Mississippi is its people.
Right.
And I 100% would agree with that. There's a great saying, there's a difference between nice and kind. You have the folks that are just nice, that'll say, oh, we're always here for you. But then they, problems come up and they aren't, or they turn their back. They're nowhere to be found. Mississippians, they'll tell you right to your face what they think about you.
Yeah.
It might be disguised with a bless your heart, but it's
bless your heart.
It's the most creative insults I've ever heard in my life.
Thanks. we came up with that here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's another great thing out of Mississippi. No, but
but it's like they're so creative that you can't even be mad about it. You're just like, that just came right out of your head, right there on the spot. I'm not even insulted. I'm impressed.
Yes.
But they'll be very blunt. They'll tell you if they don't trust you. But I tell you what, they are the people that tree falls on your house. They're the neighbors you want. If you have a flat tire, you have 5 cars stopping to help you up. House burns down, they raise $20,000 out of thin air when most people are scrambling just to pay the utility bills. It's unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And the idea of being part of that was just too good to pass up.
I love it. Absolutely love it. What are your kids or in your family and your wife? What do they think about your TikTok fame?
They've been very supportive of it. My wife, when I first started doing them, especially right around the Red Bluff time when I did that trip, she commented that she's like, you just seem happier. And I said, I really feel like I am. I feel like there's this voice that I've been able to find and a venue for it that I hadn't had before. And being able to just share these stories is, it's irreplaceable. It is just a priceless opportunity. And she loved seeing that. So she has been very, very supportive of this, which I was very impressed by, because I don't think the idea of going to her and be like, hey, I'm going to try social influencing.
Yes.
No, you're not. Mow the lawn.
No, get outside, take the trash out, and go to work, do something else. Yeah.
Now, my kids, they haven't been as excited about it, but of course they're not on social media, so they don't really get it. All they see is, why is Papa in the backyard talking to himself?
Why is Dad walking around like this?
Yes.
It's like he's got this in his face. What is he going on?
I still am not used to that. I am so self-conscious when I'm holding a phone and talking into it. So trying to cover festivals and things, I just, if people come up and they'll say that they recognize me, or they'll come talk to me, and I am just thrilled when people do that. I think every time I go to Costco, I run into somebody that's like, oh, you're Papa Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I am not used to it at all, even after a year. And I am so tickled whenever that happens. It's just, it makes my day. But my kids, of course they don't get that. They're just like, hey, I don't want to go to a festival so you can talk on your phone.
But they'll learn. They'll learn.
Right. They'll get it eventually.
If they're anything like my kids, they will eventually fall in love with social media.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Well, okay. So you're on, we know you're on TikTok with your almost 100,000 followers. What other platforms can people follow you on?
So I just have my personal page on Facebook. It's a public one if people want to find it. But TikTok is really the main one. What goes on TikTok also typically goes on Instagram. There's a small amount that goes on YouTube. Some of those platforms don't play well with each other. So when I'm already trying not to take up too much time away from the kids, then sometimes I just don't want to take an additional 45 minutes to convert something around.
Right.
So TikTok and Instagram are really the main places. The other, a lot of the other Mississippi creators, and I have created something called the Magnolia feed. That's a bi-weekly email that has kind of our highlights from the last 2 weeks of, a story or two from me, a crime story from True Crime Mama, some recipes from down on the coast.
So who's the recipes? Is it your barefoot neighbor? Or
yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
I love him. I know him. I got to meet him. He came up. As a matter of fact, the first public or the first event meet and greet type thing that he did was one that I planned over in Meridian, and he and Mississippi Queen came up.
Yes. Thank you for I'm having that moment of like thinking on the spot and names are slipping. But yes, Mississippi Queen and your barefoot neighbor are two of the ones that to me show that you can take this and make it more than an app, that it can be an actual tool for good in your area.
And
Oh
I'm
my
not going to say
gosh.
anything, not to discredit Mississippi Queen, because she is
Mhm.
doing so much, but your barefoot neighbor down there on the coast, which our sister station WLOX down there has done many stories with him, but he has, I mean, just he calls it his neighborhood, his barefoot neighborhood.
Yes.
But they have raised so much
I
money
can't
for different
believe
charities.
It's unreal. It's the and he's like, I see pictures. He's out building like 100 beds for
Yes.
kids, and then he just published a book of recipes, and
Actually, it's his second book.
second book.
Second
Oh my
cookbook.
gosh!
I have a signed copy of his
How are
first
you
one.
doing this?
So, but
I'm
so
so
much good.
proud of it, though. It's
Yes.
just, you're like, that is Mississippi right
Mhm.
there.
And that's why I wanted so much to do this series, where
Mhm.
it's talking to Mississippians, hopefully local to Jackson, but Mississippians that have found this fame, this
Mhm.
surprising fame on social media, and they're able to convert that to doing good for Mississippi and bringing that positive
Yes.
light to Mississippi.
Yes,
So-
yes, because people outside the state, they're, it's a challenge sometimes, I think, in our social media and internet age, just to get folks to pay attention to just the news in their area, much less the news in other places. And so that's why I see the work that's being done here is so important, of
Mhm.
just trying to reach on every platform, trying to get every generation involved in what's going on in the world, going on in Mississippi. But the additional reach of social media with TikTok is those borders aren't there. You're not limited by, you're not encroaching into another, outlet or anything like that. It's like some guy in Oregon could turn it on and be like, oh, cool, I'm going to check out this recipe book from the coast.
There's hippos in Mississippi, or there was going to be. Yeah. So
yes. And I have very little patience. I tend to be a pretty positive person. I have very little patience for the ones from outside the state, though, that like they'll see the video and they just see the name of Mississippi and they start saying negative things.
Right.
And I'm like, goodbye.
yes, like, nope, we don't need that here.
We're keeping things positive.
We are the hospitality state, but don't talk bad about us.
Absolutely.
Don't talk bad about us.
Absolutely.
Because then he'll talk bad if it's about you on his platform.
You don't want that.
No. But yeah, so go follow Brett. He is again on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and then a little bit on YouTube.
A little bit on you. Trying to grow that one. That was kind of small, but we're getting there. So.
Very exciting. I can't wait to see what your next video is going to be, what your next history lesson is going to be for Mississippi.
Oh man,
and look at it.
Me too.
You too. You're excited to learn what you're going to learn.
Excited to learn.
Yes.
That's really what it all comes down to in the end. It's learning new things, listening as people are sharing new things, and just keeping an open mind.
Keep an open mind. That's right. Because we are the hospitality state.
Yes.
There's room at the table for everyone.
There is.
There is. And there's good food. And there's really good food.
Oh boy, talk about a whole nother podcast.
Right. Yeah. That'd be a whole other episode.
Our hot sauce in Pennsylvania was ketchup.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no, that's not hot sauce.
No.
All right, guys, well, go follow Papa Mississippi on all the social media channels that you can. The way, like I say, you can support these creative Mississippians is by following their social media channels. So go check him out today. Go follow him. Like I said, if you don't have TikTok, download it, follow him, and WLBT3 on your side. Follow us as well there. But go do that. And I guess, let's call it a day. If they want to know anything else about you, follow you and
all right,
find out. If you got any questions about the history of Mississippi, ask this guy. He'll search it up for you.
Yeah. I probably won't know it, but I will find
He'll find it, and then I'll repost it. That's what I'll do.
There you go. I like it.
All right, guys. Well, you have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Don't forget, we do have some expectations of severe weather this evening. We actually have issued a first alert weather day, so you want to make sure you're here at 2:30 for our first alert weather team, where they can come, or they're going to come in and give you a detailed look at the forecast, so you can be prepared for the potential of severe weather in our area. Papa, do I call you Papa? Do I call you
I'll
Brett?
take it.
You take it. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a whole lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You guys, I'll be back Monday. You have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you then. Bye, y'all.